It's a pleasure to be here and to come back again to Spain during the Spanish presidency of the Council of the European Union. And the first time in Barcelona during this period of time. And I would like to thank Jenny Fernandez and the Spanish National Markets and Competition Commission, Andreas Mund and the ICN community for inviting me to speak today. And as Commissioner for Justice this time, I don't want to speak about the COVID-19 that we have had to face or the Russian aggression against Ukraine, because there we are fighting against impunity, but also we are facing now the situation in the Middle East, and it's true that the geopolitical situation is very difficult with such a kind of succession of terrorist attacks against Israel, now in France or in Belgium, but also the situation in Gaza Strip. So it's a pleasure to be here in Barcelona to speak not about that, but maybe about competition for the first time with such a gathering. And of course I will have to discuss on other topics maybe during the day. But you know that I stepped in as EU Commissioner for Competition only about 1 month ago, so it's very recent to go back. I've learned a lot, because I'm a lawyer by training, about competition, but it was 40 years ago, so I've seen some changes in the evolution in the competition policy since then. And one of the first things I could see is the importance of international cooperation in competition policy, as well as in other policy for which I'm responsible, like data protection or consumer policy. One of the key goals in my mandate has been to cooperate with many international partners to promote convergence towards high levels of data protection across the world. For instance, I led the discussions with my US counterparts, Commerce Secretary Raimondo and Attorney General Garland, for the EU-US data privacy framework. And this is a concrete achievement in privacy and data protection, ensuring an adequate level of protection for personal data that crosses the Atlantic. We have similar arrangements with Korea, Japan, and other countries. You know that we try all the time to be sure that the protection is traveling with the data. And similarly, all major competition cases require cooperation, and the International Competition Network, by definition, plays a crucial role to foster convergence among agencies. We converge on many things, one of which is the fact that this is a time for renewal and modernization for all of us. You often hear that we want to stay fit for purpose. In the European Union, we have gone through a period of intense updating of our antitrust and merger rules. But fit for purpose also means that competition enforcement has to fit market realities. And those realities have changed. It's true, you have mentioned that before, digital services are everywhere. Monetary payments are no longer the norm, and data has become a valuable input. Consumers, for their part, have also evolved. They are concerned not just by how much they pay, but also more and more by the impact of their consumption on the environment. And you spoke about sustainability. We try to take on board of a more sustainable economy all the consumers. We try to empower them to take part in the sustainable economy, like we try to do that with the companies. And I'm thinking about the discussions that we have in the so-called trilogue in the European Union now about our corporate sustainability due diligence directive, so to try to organize a better process of due diligence in all the companies about possible harms to the environment and violations of human rights. But it's important to know that there are evolutions in the way to think about the situation, certainly for also the consumers. And they want to be active contributors to the green transformation of European society and economy. Being fit for purpose means that our enforcement must be in tune with those realities, which is why we will discuss digital mergers today. And it is also why we will discuss the intersection of competition enforcement with novel aspects of consumer welfare, including, again, data protection and sustainability goals. First, a word on digital mergers. Digitalization is perhaps the most prevalent phenomenon across all sectors of the economy today. My first observation here would be that mergers in the digital sphere typically bring together companies offering products that are related to each other, but that do not compete against each other. This makes the digital world special compared to traditional sectors. Now, non-horizontal mergers raise very different kinds of issues than horizontal ones. Think of a situation where a digital platform acquires a product to add to its ecosystem of interrelated products. Then, a natural concern would be that rivals of the acquired product could be foreclosed by the digital platform. They might either find it more difficult to access this platform after the merger, or they might not be able to do so at all. We recently looked into such possible effects in the case of Amazon's acquisition of the movie studio MGM. There we examined the competitive impact of adding MGM's content to Amazon's existing audiovisual services and marketplace services. We ultimately dismissed concerns in that case mainly due to the limited impact of such addition. After all, not every acquisition which takes place in an ecosystem necessarily has a negative impact on competition. Such foreclosure concerns are not new, and they are not specific to digital mergers. In the past, we have dealt with many such situations in more traditional sectors, and we have a consolidated case practice on such theories of harm. But in some of our most recent digital mergers, these concerns resurfaced in a modern disguise. For example, in Microsoft Activision Blizzard, we conclude that Microsoft could be tempted to make Activision Blizzard's games available only on its own cloud game streaming services. In addition, we found that Microsoft could have an incentive to withhold these games from cloud game streaming providers to protect its PC operating system Windows from competition by other PC operating systems. Our remedies, therefore, made sure that any competing cloud streaming provider can obtain a license for Activision Blizzard's games in the open economic area upon simple request from Microsoft. Any such licenses received during the 10-year commitment period are perpetual and free of charge. However, in some of our digital mergers, we found that the most pressing concerns were actually of an horizontal nature. Certain mergers can lead to dominance entrenchment. In these cases, we see a dominant player expanding its ecosystem through acquisitions in order to preempt the entry or expansion of other players. For example, last month, we blocked the blocking e-travel merger because we were worried about the impact on Booking's core market, the hotel online travel agency market, by acquiring e-travel's flight product. Booking would have a very large amount of additional traffic and customer access and attention early on in their trip planning or trip booking process. As a result, it would have become more difficult for competing hotels to enter or expand in the market. I should stress here that, as also clearly shown by our track record, we do not see a problem every time a digital platform simply improves or expands its products offerings through an acquisition. So we need to define the market and then to see what are the consequences of a specific operation before to take a decision. But it's important to give some examples to explain the reason why we are taking such a kind of decision in one or another way. Such diversification might actually be good for consumers as long as after the transaction, rivals can still challenge the merged entity. But when this is not the case, we will not hesitate to intervene to make sure that digital markets remain open and contestable. One reason why the remaining rivals may find it difficult to challenge a dominant ecosystem has to do with the essential input in the digital economy: data. Data plays an ever larger role in how we think about competition. This is because data has become a very valuable asset or input. We have examined the risk that digital mergers might combine data sets and create market power. In vertical mergers, we have looked at the risk that rivals be foreclosed from data as an input. But we have also looked at the role of privacy and data protection in the competitive process. Data protection and privacy emerge as a key concern in certain cases. So we will assess whether the quality of data and privacy protections is a parameter of competition and whether the transaction results in the loss of competition in this respect. This is a very important development because data protection and privacy are fundamental rights of EU citizens, but also because data protection and privacy concerns are becoming more important to Europeans also when choosing the services and products they buy. This goes hand in hand with a wide range of other challenges the Commission is facing on data protection and privacy. To start with, we must ensure our procedures are compliant with data protection rules, while also making sure this protection is not abused to hamper or delay our investigations. There are many other examples of interaction between our policies and data protection. In the Digital Markets Act, for example, there are also obligations for gatekeepers when it comes to what they can do with users' personal data. Gatekeepers are forbidden from combining and cross-using personal data from core services with other services without user consent. Privacy and data protection are only one example of the intersection between competition policy and other areas related to consumer preferences to what consumers value. Sustainability is another one. As you know, last July we adopted our revised horizontal guidelines, which provides new guidance to assess agreements among competitors that pursue sustainability objectives. This is the culmination of a debate in which the Commission was fully engaged together with other competition agencies in the European Union and around the world, the civil society, academics, and other stakeholders about the greening of EU competition policy. We expect that the majority of agreements that have a genuine sustainability objective will not restrict competition, or that they can benefit from an individual exemption under Article 101(3) of the treaty. And I should emphasize that this is also an important area of convergence. We understand from contacts with relevant companies and organizations that sustainability-focused initiatives are being taken, but a lot are developed at national level, as most requests for informal guidance have been made to national competition authorities in the European Union. We are in close contact with our colleagues that are also applying our sustainability guidance, and we look forward to working with them to collectively build up CARE's experience. We also see the rise of sustainability as a factor of competition in our daily practice. We see that competitive markets often promote more sustainable outcomes. This is particularly the case where consumers express a preference for more sustainable products or services. Our recent merger decisions reflect this. For example, in some cases, we have found that lower emission processes sometimes justify defining separate product markets for more sustainable products. In other cases, such as Schwarz-Suez, a merger in waste services, and Sika-MBCC, a merger in chemical admixtures, we have found that more sustainable alternatives are closer competitors to each other than less sustainable ones. So sustainability aspects are increasingly having a very concrete impact in competition enforcement. And so we have seen during the last years, on one hand, that data protection become to be a real concern in many parts of the world. And the GDPR, the first regulation at the international level, is more and more the common rule for many actors. And we have seen on the 5 continents similar legislations or regulations. I'm sure that about sustainability, we need to think about the same kind of evolution. Or it's possible to exchange on the impact of sustainability on competition policy and to try to organize maybe the same kind of guidelines in the way to implement and to enforce the competition policy in relation with sustainability. There are a lot of things to do. I'm sure that with the ICN it will be possible to organize maybe workshops and different kind of contacts on this. But there are 2 main developments in the last years, and certainly due to also the evolution in the digital world when we are speaking about data protection. To close, I would like to recognize the ICN's profound contribution to our collective endeavor. This year's conference will explore those topics in much more detail than I could do in my introductory remarks. These are cutting-edge issues, and the fact that we are able to sit around the table to discuss them, may we be bigger or smaller agencies, old ones or new ones, from all parts of the world, is an incredible achievement. I'm looking forward to hearing your views and maybe also your views about what are the evolutions after the COVID-19 pandemic, because we have seen so many different evolutions in different markets after the COVID pandemic and due to the recovery and a very new situation, also in the competition policy, that it will be very interesting to listen from you about your own experience concerning the way to enforce the competition policy after the COVID and in comparison with the situation before. Not only because we have seen some huge restructuration in different sectors, but also due again to the development of the digitalization of our economy since the COVID-19, because it was an accelerator of the process. And so it will be a pleasure to listen all the conversation today and to receive maybe some input from for the development of the EU competition policy in the near future. Thank you very much for your attention. I wish you fruitful discussions, not only during this conference, but during the whole year in the many different workshops that you will organize with the ICN. Thank you.